Left off on this project, this is the 40 horsepower Johnson. Left off on this project needing parts. We ordered some seals for the lower unit since it was leaking. The carburetors were pulled off. I cleaned those up, but in the process I broke something stupidly. Got those parts in as well as the seals. So today I'm gonna put all this stuff, fix this stuff, and then put it all back together and see if this bad boy will run. Plan is to start with the lower unit since while I've got the carburetors and the air box off of the motor, it'll be easier to get this linkage hooked up underneath. So let's see, I've got this O-ring here for the housing. Already had that impeller. This is the old one, just to show you again how messed up that was. You can see it's starting to break right there, which likely, if that one was breaking, the rest of them are probably pretty close to breaking too. Yep, that one looks pretty bad too. Looks like a dry rotted tire. So, and we need to get this seal replaced, so we'll take this off. So this is I think this is the seal that failed, this O-ring here. There's also an O-ring in the middle. I bought both of them, so we'll replace both of them. So inside of here, there's an O-ring. I'm gonna take the O-rings out, clean this thing up, and we'll put the new ones in. This one doesn't look like it's in that bad a shape, the one that was in the middle, but I don't think it was leaking through the middle. I think it was leaking through this O-ring here, which looks not so good. All right, so we'll clean this up. So these little green scrub pads, I just get them at the grocery store. You can get them at the dollar store. They are amazing. All right, so the seals. This is our new inside seal. I'm gonna use a little bit of oil to slick it on up. This one can be a little tricky to put in. So I'll stick it in part way like that. I don't know if this is the right way, but this is how I do it. I try to get that top portion. Hang on, I gotta see where the groove is. I'm not gonna be able to show this on camera, but I'll try to talk you through it, what I'm doing. So there's a little groove cut out inside of here that this O-ring sits in. I put it in part way and try to slide the top part into the groove. And I push the rest of it up in there. And slide it. So this pick is dulled out. The point broke off a long time ago, and then I used a file to dull it out even more so it doesn't have any sharp edges or surfaces on it. That way it won't tear up the O-ring. So the O-ring's in now. I got the top part into the groove first, then I push the bottom part up in there, and it helps to, use something to lubricate it before you do it. All right, this is the outside seal. Same thing, I'm just gonna use some oil to lube it up. All right, so that's good to go. I'll put that back on. And clean this off. Make sure those threads are clean. So I have to push this thing on past the threads. And you got to be careful because the threads, especially if there's some, you know, metal chunks or anything on there, you can tear up that O-ring as you're sliding it on. So same thing, I'm just going to use some oil on the shift shaft. To help this thing slide in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it was in there 6 turns. Put a little oil around there. I did clean the same thing up with that scrub pad. I cleaned the surface up as well when I was cleaning up that housing. These bolts are a little crusty, so I'm going to clean these up on the bench grinder. We are sealed back up, so I'm going to go ahead and do this pressure test over again. All right, it's at 10 psi. Leave that for a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to walk over to the carburetors and fix my screw up over there. All right, so this is what I broke here. And the rest of it is still inside. This is not the one. Yeah, the rest of it is still inside there. You can see the O-ring is still in there too. I did order an extra O-ring also. I'm going to try to get that out with, I think, an extractor bit. Let's see if I can find one of those real quick. I can't make it focus, but it's kind of like a reverse threaded, I don't know. Sometimes they work, sometimes it don't. This is actually coming out by hand. Nice. That is the easiest I've ever gotten anything out with one of these. Thank goodness. All right. Out with the old. This is the new one. And the O-ring. I will not screw this in extra tight this time. Learn my lesson. So this was definitely by far, it wasn't hard to find. They had it on marineengine.com, but it was the most expensive part that I ordered. So if you want to save money, don't break that thing. Cool. Tight enough. Not doing that again. This bad boy, I'm assuming this is where we were since that's what I broke last. This was 2.5 turns out, so I will turn this all the way in, and then we'll turn it back out 2.5 turns. So it's 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and if I remember right, it was just over 2.5, so there we go. This is what? This is the bottom carburetor. I think that's completely back together now. We'll finish putting this one back together. Top carburetor. Some might say, hey, why didn't you just go ahead and completely tear down the top carburetor too? It looked clean to me. You're probably right. Probably should have just taken the time to do it now, instead of having to revisit this later, but I'm going to send it. I think it'll be fine. And if not, I guess that's my problem, right? Since I'm the one who has to do it. All right, so it's been, I think, like 12 or 13 minutes since we pumped up the lower unit to 10 psi. And it is still at 10 psi. Perfect. So that's good to go. I'll go ahead and put that back on while we have the carburetor off. All right, so where my finger is, that is where the little pin goes, bolt that connects the shift rod to the shift linkage up here. I've got it aligned already. I use my needle nose here to get it lined up, and I'm just using a magnet. All right, so the screw is in, the bolt's in, it's connected. I had to turn the camera off because, as usual, every time I do this, that process is frustrating. But it is hooked up, so I will keep moving forward. Take two. Okay, so this thing's obviously not running right. Several things were happening, which you probably couldn't hear in the video. So, one, it didn't start right up. It needed a lot of throttle in order to run, and then it didn't run well, and was puffing out a lot of smoke. So, number two, it wasn't pumping water. We just changed the water pump, so it's not the impeller. It's probably a blockage somewhere. There were dirt dauber nests placed randomly throughout this motor, so most likely it was a dirt dauber's nest in the P-tube. And three, it had an alarm going off. Could have been an overheat alarm, not sure. I'm thinking that it was the VRO alarm because they still had the VRO wire hooked up. I've since taken it apart. This is the VRO wire. This was hooked up to here. I've disconnected that, so when we run this, if we run this, see if that cuts off. Now as for it not running right, this switch was here. This is the primer system. There's no choke, butterflies or anything on here. So these things use a primer where it basically sprays fuel directly into the back of the carburetor. There's this little tube on each carburetor. There's one on the top and one on the top of the bottom as well. So I think that was just dumping fuel. I think that's the setting it needs to be in. So we'll check that. I took this bottom shroud off so that I could get to the water tube. I did try spraying a little bit of blowing a little air, compressed air, into the P-tube, which is here. It did have a dirt dauber's nest I picked out, sprayed a little bit in there, but it still wasn't, blew a little air in there, still wasn't working. So I took this off and took the shroud off so that I could take the entire tube off. Blew that out. This is clear. I cranked this a few times and I didn't get anything. No water coming out of here. So I sprayed some air directly into here and then it started to flow water when it was cranking. So I think that problem solved. I think we've solved all of our problems. I think the alarm is going to be okay. I think it's going to run right now because it's not dumping fuel into the carburetors. And I think it will pee now. But while I've got this off, you can see it's dirty as crap. So this is a perfect opportunity to clean all this nastiness out of this bottom cover. When it's all together, it's so hard to get to. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the entire motor while I've got this off, and then we'll try to start it again. Okay, so this is take 3 basically. This is where being too lazy to work on that second carburetor is biting me in the butt. And I've proven this to myself countless times in the past. It doesn't pay to take shortcuts. It saves you time in the long run just to go ahead and take a little bit longer to clean that second carburetor. Well, I didn't, and now I had to go back and do it. So I cleaned the carburetor, put it back on there. This is take 3. See if we can get it to run and idle properly.